Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's had a great night. Um, I have found a Twitter page, news feed, where they are live feeding. Live feeding, that sounds weird to say. Where they're live streaming the search for Brian Landry. So I thought that I would share it with you guys and we would watch it. So here we go. I'm going to share it right now. Now I'm going to be watching chat from my phone. If anybody does have anything to say, they can share it there. But otherwise,
Some comments here in just a few moments, but let's
Radio
radio in here to Paul Lamison. Paul
from Eagle, do you
do you have us?
Paul Lamison to Eagle HD. This is JB on WFLA now. You're live. You have us.
Do you have us?
Third time's a charm, right? Paul Lamison, this is JB on WFLA now. You're live with myself and Walt Buteau. Do you have us? We keep missing the time. Okay, so he's back live on television.
The Eagle 8 showing you right there what Josh Taylor from the Northport Police Department was talking about. The water there. That's the obvious water, but I think within the wooded area there's more swampy water now. And I saw from a survivalist who reached out to me that talked about someone who wanted to remain hidden would walk in the water to cover their trail, so to speak, but that carries its own hazards in itself. Large area, by the way, 25,000 square feet.
Enormous. And just a fraction of the size, of course, we've been talking about as Grand Teton National Park here. So
acres,
right. And we've
It's
funny you mention that because there have been different units of measurement to describe the sizes of the areas that we're searching here, acres, feet, square miles. So you can see here that now, okay, we are off trails here. The ATV is kind of going through some of these areas now in some of the wooded areas, searching for, again, just joining us, this is the search right now for Brian Laundrie. But I want to begin with this very important one here. We're going to get Paul Lamison involved here in our coverage here momentarily. But let's get to Valerie here on Twitter. Hashtag KJB. What I began with here, Walt, a few minutes ago. Was this a new search started based on a tip? And here's the thing, because they didn't search this area yesterday. We were talking about this live on stream yesterday, that the search was kind of re-strategized to focus on whatever else.
So they took a day off, which could be a manpower thing.
I asked about
that, and we're still trying to clarify whether or not it was just because they needed a break, because, again, this is a law enforcement agency and law enforcement in general that has been overworked, clearly.
And the difference in this time is they have approached this 25,000 acre preserve from the Venice side of it, as opposed to the other side, which they started on Saturday. Was that from a tip? I think many of us wonder the same thing. But Josh Taylor from the Northport Police Department talks about the Carlton Reserve being a vast and unforgiving location at times, currently waist deep in water in many areas, as we're seeing there. So we don't know whether it's just strategy, whether they took a day off. It's it's not necessarily tiring for those officers there, but there are some, I imagine, on foot in the thick of it, dealing with whatever you might deal with out there off the trails, if you will. Because you've made a good point, JB. If you're trying to hide or you're probably not staying on the trails.
Right. And I don't know exactly. I have never been in the vast wilderness trying to hide from dozens and dozens of teams of officers who are trying to find me. I can't speak to that, but what I can speak to is at this stage, this is a commenter yesterday messaged me off the clock and brought up something that I think is, look, as you see here, let's just go live here to Eagle 8 HD. You can see here they're looking on binoculars. So this is what the search looks like here at this hour.
I think he's off. He's ready to go. Paul might be ready to go.
Oh, okay. Let's see if we can bring in Paul Lamison. Paul, this is JB on WFLA Now. You are live. Do you have us via radio? Paul Amison, do you copy? This is JB. We are live on WFLA now. What do you have up there from Eagle 8 HD?
I don't know. They're still looking.
And again, some radio difficulties here with Eagle 8 HD.
We have
again
to tell
bring
him.
in.
I hope he's there now.
We'll be able to bring in Paul Amison here, and he'll be able to hear us and be able to take some of our questions here momentarily. But there you were able to see some of the search efforts. But back to the point that I was making. Somebody made a point here, and I'm not going to say it's a point that I necessarily agree with or disagree with, but let's see if our commenters agree here with what I'm about to say. Somebody messaged me off the clock and said, you know, Brian Laundrie might be the subject of a massive missing persons case. He might be somebody who the entire world wants to speak to, and everybody is fearing the worst right now as far as his involvement with Gabby Petito and what happened to the 22-year-old woman from Northport. But the person said at the bottom of the note to me personally, or it was either my Facebook or my Instagram account, and said, if there's one thing I truly believe is that Brian Laundrie is not stupid. And I just kind of hovered on that for just a moment and thought about it. And we've been talking about this, Walt, about how difficult it is to just vanish and disappear. That disappearing act that we've been talking about over the last several days, how difficult it is when the entire world is on the lookout for you and you just completely go off the grid and you are gone. The words yesterday that I read in this message that read that Brian Laundrie is not stupid kind of just stuck with me. And whether or not our commenters agree or disagree, it was just something that I hadn't really ever, truly thought about. But we've talked about his mindset, what his mental state might be like here at this time. Again, with the entire world watching him, with, of course, all of the media, all the media stories and all the coverage. It's been immense. So
But if you're going to do that, I think this is the place you do it. And I also think that, if you do think, if you don't make mistakes, I'm not so sure it's impossible to hide. It's just a matter of finding a path out of the country. And I don't know that would be, it's going to be difficult, obviously, from Florida, but if he could make his way out of Florida, that would be the key. Now, the question is, why are the police back here? Do they have a tip that he never emerged from this wooded area?
Again, trying to reach out to Paul Amison, really just curious because he has seen a lot in his career over the decades here at WFLA News Channel 8. Very curious to hear from him. Again, 8 on your side, senior investigator Walt Pito. JB Buno here with you live on WFLA now. Let's get to Tommy Rosalie from the Facebook Live comment section. This one's for you. #Hey Walt. Would law enforcement have followed the parents and Brian's money yet to try to trace him?
You would hope so, right? But obviously, if to JB's point, if he's smart, he's using cash. If he's trying to remain hidden, his parents made it sound like he just went out for a hike, which was odd. And I saw a police officer's comment out of a retired officer's comment. Why would sort of question the parents? Would they question him? Hey, shouldn't you stay around? But that's the last they heard of him, which was last Tuesday. But we don't have any record of whether law enforcement followed the parents or Brian's money at this point. They have not commented. I will tell you, local law enforcement is Northport is referring us to the FBI, and the FBI generally is not going to comment for obvious reasons. They don't want Brian to know if they are indeed tracking his credit cards or whatever, but you would just make the assumption, being the FBI and doing what they do, that is what they're doing right now, trying to at least develop an electronic trail of where Brian has been and where he might go. So decent question, but we're not getting that yet. And again, the FBI is the lead agency, and it's not our FBI. It's the FBI out of Denver.
Let's get to some more of the questions and comments that are coming in here, folks, on WFLA now. We're live on a lot of different places. I don't know if we have the ability yet to go live on Reddit or on TikTok, but hello to our Reddit and TikTok audience there. I've been following some of the stuff that's been going on TikTok and Reddit, and also to our live audience here on Facebook, Twitter. YouTube, and WFLA.com and the WFLA app. Let's just quickly remind folks that if you don't want to listen to the latest, you can read the latest, and you can read the latest on WFLA.com, the WFLA app. Also, we're going to get into the search warrant documentation of what we learned from that with Walt here and with Masa, our 8 on your side investigator here. But the latest, all of the stories here are for you on WFLA.com and the WFLA app. All right, I am now being told here, and let's see if we can finally get through to Eagle 8 HD's Paul Lamison and see if we can get him on. Paul, this is JB, Eagle 8 HD. Do you copy?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Paul, you are live on WFLA now. Just kind of walk our audience through, walk our audience through. I'm going to avoid every urge in my body to not make a news pun there. Walk our audience through here what you're seeing from Eagle 8 HD, and you've been here now for the last 25-30 minutes.
Okay, JB, what they're doing, we've seen a bigger search effort than we've seen in the past, and they are in a different area. Even though they're still in the Carlton Reserve, you have to remember that's a huge area, and they're over closer to Venice now. And where these guys are searching right now, it's a little bit dry. They've gone through some heavily wooded area and some water. Now, what we've seen these guys do on these SUVs, I'm going to go in real close. They're looking, and when they see something that kind of catches their eye, they're pulling over and looking with binoculars. They also have maps out, and so they're kind of figuring out where they are and what they're doing. Now, this is like looking for a needle in a haystack. They're riding right now against part of a lake and part of a heavily wooded area just on a path. And so they've been doing this a lot. We also saw drones up, little drones that almost look like airplanes, like an RC airplane. They're flying this area in a grid pattern. There's also a huge command center. They have plenty of ATVs out here. They have four-wheelers. They have all kinds of vehicles and people on foot walking through. And what they said, the Northport police said, they're also concerned when they walk through some of this water, some of the deeper water, there's alligators, there's snakes, and other wildlife. So they're on their alert as well. So this is a dangerous search. And again, it's a search, almost a needle in a haystack. Here you see they're going to go through some of the flooded area. You see how wet it is right through this little area as they make their way through. And I'm going to move the camera out wide and show you just how tight this area is and how hard it is. Now, if you want to hide, if you don't want to be found and you're out in this area, it's really easy to do. This is a roadway that's been cut through here. But if I move the camera over here and show you like a heavily wooded area, you can very easily go inside those trees and you can't be seen from the air or the ground. And that's what they're up against. This is a really difficult search, and especially because it does cover such a wide area. And again, I told you they're over closer to Venice now, and that's a little bit different. They stopped the search yesterday. Today they're continuing it, but in a completely different area. So I'm wondering if they maybe have some new information to lead them to this area. But this area is drier than the other area, but still has a lot of flooded areas and a lot of wooded patches as well. So you have a little bit different topography. You have this area that they're going through almost like a flat where there's not a lot of water. But if I move the camera and show you up to this wood, you can go into this area where it's really thick woods and you can hide and nobody can find you. And it's going to be tough to even walk through there because, again, the snakes, the alligators, the other wildlife. So, again, very difficult search that they're doing. I'll pull the camera really wide and show you this area, the vastness of it. That's over towards Venice, and it's just woods and woods for as far as you can see. So again, this search is going to take a while, but they're out here in full force. So JB, I'm going to throw it back to you right now.
Eagle 8 HD's Paul Lamison for us, everybody in the sky. Thanks a lot, Paul. We'll check back in with Paul a little bit later on here. Back with you live on WFLA now. We've got Paul Lamison in the sky and Eagle 8 HD. Tap of the touchscreen. We can bring up Walt Buteau here. Everybody, 8 on your side, senior investigator. I'm JB Buno. We're here live again for the search for Brian Laundrie at Carlton Reserve. As Walt mentioned earlier, Walt, you're learning your geography here in Florida pretty quickly. We're live here right near Venice, Florida. Again, this is a very vast, as you just heard Paul talk about there, a very vast area here to search. and you're not alone. If you felt your heart kind of sink when Paul, who has many years of experience as far as covering stories from the sky, if your heart sank a little bit when he said, see that wooded area right there? You can't see in there from the ground, you can't see in there from the sky. And there's thousands of dense wooded spots. You can see a bunch of them here in the center of your screen where Brian Laundrie or anyone, a missing person, could be in there, and it would take a staggering amount of time to comb through all of that wooded area, that dense wooded area, to find anything. But so at this point, I think, Walton, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're looking for any signs or any footprints or anything that could lead them to where Brian Laundrie was or
you would
could
think
be.
so, right? And the other thing to remember, though, the family had said that that was a place that he went. He liked to go there. I've been someone who has done hiking in wooded areas, and I knew those areas pretty well. Nothing like this necessarily, but trails. Sometimes the trails aren't obvious, so he may know of a place where he would go, an exact place where he knows there are, within those trees you see, that stand of trees, there could be spaces between the trees, maybe a more impromptu path that people have cut. I know I've experienced that before. And if this guy had gone there a lot, what is his experience and what was his favorite place? It's 25,000 acres. It's the size of a city, for crying out loud. And so there's a lot of space. And yeah, you wonder if, as Paul pointed out, they're on the main road, that one of the trails, I assume 80 miles of trails. They're on that. Are they with their binoculars looking for broken branches, signs that somebody might have entered a wooded area? Those are things we don't know yet. And according to Northport Police, there are no plans for a news conference today, and any new information is supposed to come out of the Denver office of the FBI. So we may not find out anything today unless they actually find Brian Laundrie.
Take a moment, folks. We're going to start taking your hashtag #HeyWalt, hashtag #HeyJB comments here in about 90 seconds. So take a moment, open up Maps or Google Maps on your phone, type in Carlton Reserve, okay, Florida, in Google Maps or whatever map application that you use. Switch to satellite view and just look at how large of an area that the FBI and search crews are currently navigating through. It is a staggering area as far as its scope and size, and you can see here that there are quite a number of teams here on the ground here currently looking for Brian Laundrie. But again, I keep going back to this. We don't know the answer to this question, but I keep going back to this, Walt, and to our commenters here. This was a search that, again, the search didn't occur yesterday. Monday, they didn't search this area. Monday, they executed the search warrant at the house, left with all the boxes. Follow News Nation's Brian Enton on Twitter. He has a great shot of them lifting all the boxes into that law enforcement vehicle. All the evidence that they collected over the course of the search warrant. That was yesterday. Was there something that we learned during the execution of the search warrant, during any potential possible conversations with Brian Laundrie's parents? Was there anything that we have learned over the last 30 or so hours that leads to us being back here?
Like, did they say something like, well, when Brian went, he would park on the Venice side of the reserve? By the way, to give you some perspective, I'm going to do some Googling here. Within the entire city of Tampa, 42 surrounding suburbs, covers 70,000 acres. So this reserve is more than a third the size of Tampa, with all trees. Just imagine that for perspective. That's a large area to cover. A lot of it is water, and there's the command center that Paul was talking about.
Here to a full screen, and you can see that this is home base for the search efforts here, and again, an enormous area being searched for Brian Laundrie here. And I'd like to just take a moment, and this is something that I've been trying to do over the course of our coverage here on WFLA Now. I would just like to take a moment to give some words of encouragement to the FBI and to local investigators and to police here that have been working day and night around the clock to try and find Brian Laundrie. This is grueling work. It's difficult work, and with everyone following their every move. It's easy to scrutinize this when we're looking at it literally from a bird's eye view. But right now, they are mobilizing clearly here. We'll go full screen here again, mobilizing and doing everything that they can to find Brian Laundrie. You can see different types of vehicles now being sent into the wooded area here to look for Brian Laundrie.
And I think there's been a lot of sleuthing on the internet with this particular story for a lot of reasons, but and people get frustrated. Why aren't they telling us more? And I think we get a view of what they are doing. Like, for example, last week, the search warrant and the affidavit filed on the 14th and then the 15th. We didn't know that was actually filed, and they didn't tell us that for, I'm sure, in order to perhaps keep it from Brian, maybe, I don't know. But they file these documents without us knowing, and for all we know, there are filings right now that might tell us more about this, and we may not know about it until after the fact. Police want to hold their cards close to the vest for a lot of reasons, but these documents were filed last week. We found out about them yesterday. We had a search warrant executed yesterday. You just referenced it at the Laundrie's home, but we're still waiting on the affidavit that would perhaps shed some light onto what they told the judge in order to allow them into that house to gather those boxes of evidence. So it's
look at Paul zooming in here on some of this water here, and again,
looks like a few vehicles took off from that command post at the same time. One, I think I counted 3. So,
and we might see gators, we might see different forms of wildlife here when we go live in Eagle 8 HD. Sometimes whether it's over the water, we'll see dolphins, we'll see sharks, we'll see rays. When we go live in wooded areas like this, it's not out of the ordinary to see a gator or to see wildlife in some shape or form. So there's a lot of different things we might be seeing here, folks. So we'll keep this here in the center of our screen. And if I see anything, or Walt, if you see anything, it's a tap of the touchscreen. We're there full screen, and we can kind of zone in there and hone in on what we're looking at. Let's get to some more of the comments and the questions that are coming in here to Twitter. From Antisocial Extrovert. That's Twitter. Twitter there, folks. Hashtag KJB. How much of this reserve did they search the first time? Is it likely that they will be able to cover enough land with the amount of law enforcement currently searching currently? And
I'm going to go with no on that. Enough. The word enough is tough, right? Enough would mean you got to find them, in my opinion. I think the officers would say the same thing. I think we knew there were 50 officers on Saturday and Sunday on one side of the preserve, but again, 25,000 acres of land, 80 miles of trails, and I believe it is next to another reserve with a name I cannot pronounce, but so it is one wooded area connected to another, and we have possibly a young man, a 23-year-old, who has more experience in that wooded area than maybe some of those officers, since he went there on a regular basis to hike. So we don't. They will. That's a great question. We will ask them how much have they possibly covered. It's now been a third day, so and they're in a different area.
Eagle might be mobilizing to and checking out a different area here, folks. We'll keep you posted on where Eagle is heading. Currently not pointed here at the ground, but that could be for good reason. From Rosamond on Twitter, has the attorney indicated any contact with Brian Laundrie since his disappearance? Is he legally obligated to notify police if he is in contact? This is a phenomenal question. I'm glad that that Rosamond here asked the second portion of this question here. I'll make sure I have this right here, Walt. But let's address the first part here. Has the attorney indicated any contact with Brian Laundrie since his disappearance? Of course not. If the attorney had indicated that there was any contact with their client, they of course that would have been. We would have a better idea of where Brian Laundrie is, because of course the attorney would have indicated where. Of course, the location of said contact. But is he legally obligated? Is the attorney, Stephen Bertolino, is the attorney legally obligated to notify police if he is in contact, considering that he is a missing persons case in Florida, Walt?
I would say no. I don't know the exact answer to that, but I would say no. I will tell you that the last we heard from the Laundrie family attorney, Stephen Bertolino, had scheduled a news conference for this morning, but called it off saying, and this is it, this is his entire statement, as per my conversation with the FBI, you can read that into that as much as you want. As per my conversation with the FBI last night, there will not be a press conference today. No inferences should be drawn from this statement. But he does invite an inference. He references the FBI, so he canceled his news conference. Perhaps would the FBI have asked him to cancel the news conference for some reason? We don't know.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
A New York attorney, and the news conference was scheduled to take place in a New York area hotel.
I thought it was a little strange that the conference was called for the following day, and then it was canceled subsequently. Based on, again, communication with law enforcement. It just seemed that whole scenario seemed a little bit strange to call a presser. Why call a press conference in the first place?
Right. What were you going to say?
What were you going to announce to the world?
I don't know.
You don't know where Brian is? Please stop calling. It's your job to have your phones ring off the hook when you're an attorney of this magnitude.
And here's the great point here, and nobody right now is capable of this, including us. No inferences should be drawn from the statement. Well, all we have is a 2-sentence statement. And I think the public is drawing a lot of inferences, as we've seen from some of the questions and some of the comments you've gotten and that I've gotten on social media. So,
Eagle, again, we're going to have updates here regarding Eagle 8HC. I think we're losing signal here momentarily. We'll try to get you back here to the search here momentarily. Cricket Wrestler, #AJB, this one from Facebook. Why can they not use thermal imaging technology to find him, assuming this isn't a wild goose chase? So let's talk about that. I've been talking about the possibility of what thermal imaging technology and thermal imaging cameras mounted to choppers can do is allow you to continue an aerial search around the clock. When the sun goes down, it's hard enough to find them during the daylight. Can you imagine how hard it is to find them at night? But thermal imaging technology can be of help, of course, because you can continue looking in the overnight hours. I have asked several times if there is any thermal imaging choppers that are currently scanning the area. We have not gotten a word on that. And as we understand it, there have not been choppers flying over the search area in the overnight hours. So the search has been coordinated throughout the day. And as we understand it, again, not that the search for Brian Laundrie ends at night, but the search for Brian Laundrie at Carlton Reserve, as we understand it, ends at night. So we'll of course keep you posted if that changes, or if we get any more information that there were crews out there in the overnight hours. We got here from Mitchell Klopp on Twitter. Was there clues of Brian being located in the Carlton Reserve? #AJB, #Walton. We don't know.
The clue is from the family when the police asked about him on, I think it was Friday, and they said, "Oh, he hasn't been here since Tuesday. He went hiking in." I don't know if they used the word favorite, but in the Carlton Reserve. So I think it was I believe it was a frequent hiking spot for him. So that is the clue. That's what has brought them to the Carlton Reserve. The parents telling police. But again, did he go there on Tuesday? Has he been in that wooded area for a week?
How far can you get?
If you're a survivalist, if you know how to hunt, I don't know. I mean, in a movie, you could be hidden for a week.
If you're Rambo, you can get anywhere at any time and comb through the woods and hide for days and hours and cover yourself in mud. We just don't know.
We know Gabby and Brian were camping in off the grid areas and in secluded places. So maybe he has some skills in that area. We don't know that, though. We have not. The parents haven't talked, to the frustration of police and the FBI. The parents have not talked.
Let's talk about Alana Cameron's comment here. Hello there, Alana. #AJB, #AWalt. What happened with him supposedly being in Alabama? I can speak to that because I was talking about this yesterday. I find it very, very strange. I grew up on Long Island. I am in the Tampa Bay area here now working, and I live here and I love this community here. But my previous station was WKRG in Mobile, Alabama. And there was news or possible sightings in Mobile yesterday, and I thought there's just no way. I already have enough connections to the story.
Why no way?
Because I already have enough connections to this story, and it was just seemed like I felt like I was living in a weird alternate reality of some kind, because again, I grew up on Long Island. I live now here in Tampa Bay. I have a lot of connections to this story personally, and I have family in both areas of the country, on Long Island and in Florida, that have been texting me around the clock about this story.
Yeah.
And I also have tons of friends and colleagues of mine, former colleagues of mine, in Mobile County, Alabama. And there was a lot of speculation yesterday as to whether or not Brian Laundrie was seen in Mobile County. So my immediate thought, and you'll have to forgive me, folks, but my immediate thought was, there's just that's insane for where I am right now on the stories, because I know so many people there. But as we understand it, there was a body found in Tillman's Corner behind a Walmart yesterday that was confirmed not to be Brian Laundrie, and there have been sightings, and Mobile police have received enough tips to be looking into it, but there is nothing at this time to lead us to believe with any degree of certainty that Brian Laundrie is or was ever near Mobile, Alabama, or Mobile County, or the Gulf Coast area of Alabama in the last week.
But what an exciting thing to happen in a small town, right? And I think that
but there have been sightings everywhere. There have been sightings all over the place.
It goes to the story. It goes to what we've been talking about. Everybody is on this high alert. And it goes to what your point is. If you're in the general population in the world and you're walking around out there, yeah, it probably would be hard to be that guy right there, because we've seen him. We don't see a person of interest. We don't get this much of a look at them, right? We've seen how he walks. We've heard his voice. We got an idea how tall he is. It's not just a one-dimensional picture. It's three-dimensional. We generally think about that. We don't have that in these cases, but we have it here. So anybody who looks like that is probably getting some stares.
Right. And I was talking about it yesterday. It's not all that uncommon sort of look to have a shaved head and facial hair, and to be, I guess,
trim.
Would you describe him as lanky?
Yeah, he's lanky, trim. Sure.
Yeah.
And you know what?
There's a lot of guys out there like that match that description.
Sure, and people also have unique walks. We saw him walk. I think that's an important profiling tool, really. The guy walked. There's a walk right there. So you get an idea, and there's another guy that's the dad. So again, yeah, it's a common look. We also had a tip that he was in Jacksonville around the same time that he was
Tips have been coming in a lot of different places.
Yeah. So and I think everybody's looking into all of those tips.
Yeah, and if anything, of course, emerges out of Jacksonville or Mobile, Alabama. We were monitoring the news out of Southern Alabama yesterday just to see if there was any validity there, and it turned out, of course, not to be the case. But Mobile police, I know Mobile police. I worked with Mobile police for 5 years. I know them. I know the folks over there. They're great people, and they're of course working, and I'm sure their phones were ringing off the hook. Let's get to this one here from Twitter, from Kim Walsh Reed on Twitter. Do the authorities not have infrared helicopters? Hashtag Gabby Petito, hashtag Brian Laundrie, hashtag KJB, hashtag K Paul. And we don't know.
We don't know that.
We don't know that.
And by the way, they more than likely don't want us to know that. That's one of their tools.
That's an outstanding point, Walt. They're not going to broadcast that to the world.
If they catch him that way, they'll tell us. But they want us to know as little as possible, because they don't know if he's listening. Although I don't know how he's listening out there. But
I just
Hey guys, thought I had the mute button off, but I didn't. I logged on through my phone. I went outside on the porch and it finally worked. But anyway, I wanted to let you know we lost power at my house. They're doing a lot of road construction, moving a lot of power lines right now. So, yeah, as soon as the power comes back on, uh, I will go live again and we will resume. Uh, I will resume the live feed. Thank you all so much for joining me. I do appreciate it more than you will ever know. Please don't get discouraged because the power went out. I mean, it's storming. It looks like it's going to storm here too, unfortunately. So, just pray my power comes back on soon. I'm not sure I can handle it very much more without some power.